I have been riding motorcycles most of my life, since I was a kid. But like most people that ride, I never discovered how awesome motorcycles could actually be until I started traveling out of state for days at a time and spending my nights in the wilderness. After I realized how awesome this could be, I started planning a trip out west to ride through states I'd never even seen before and explore the country that I'd only seen images and heard stories about. This ride changed my life. Ride along with me and I'll tell you my story. Saturday morning, the day after my iron butt, my 1,000-mile journey from Hoover to Vega, Texas, and a little bit harder than I expected. Rolled into Vega about 11 o'clock last night, and I didn't know if there was going to be a store open. Luckily, there was a couple stores, lots of people. It's a cattle town, obviously, and man, prairie. I think this is called prairie. Plains is what I want to call it, but prairie because it's flat and lots of grass and very few trees. The only trees you see out here are the ones that are surrounding people's homes. And that's about it. Otherwise, I mean, it's just wide open nothingness. And I stayed here outside the I guess cell tower. No. The best part is I pull in here last night and I think, hey, I'm gonna get me a quick 4 or 5 hours of a nap. I'm gonna string my hammock in between my bike and that fence right there, and I did it. It was real quick and easy. Few adjustments, and I'm sitting in my hammock and having me a little whiskey. And next thing I know, I pull the bike over. The bike falls on the right side, and luckily no damage. I guess because all the boxes were open, but you can see this thing's starting to get to be a crash box more than a luggage box. The highest point in North Texas. I'm standing on it. Shortly after entering New Mexico, I turned north as quickly as I could to get off the interstate system. As soon as I transitioned from the state of Texas, I noticed a sharp and dramatic difference in the geology. Mesas rose out from the rolling plains in the desert. At this point in my journey, this is as far west as I'd ever been, and I was pretty excited. As the sun came out, I had to pull off my gear, and this is one of the few states in the country that allows you to ride without a helmet, so I chose to enjoy the helmet-free wind in my hair. This was quite an experience. As far west as I've ever been, my first exposure to BLM, or Bureau of Land Management, was cows walking across the highway. Back east, especially in the south, you do not see cattle walking across the road. Indian reservations do not exist back east, especially in the south. And this was just one small example of the culture shock that I was about to experience. Miles and miles of unknown lands and road stretched out in front of me. Lands that I'd never seen. Views that amazed me. The smells that I'd never sensed before. The dry air on my skin was unusual, to say the least. My wonderment was even more intense in the fact that I had no planned route. As I stopped for fuel, I noticed that my clutch was going out, so I added some clutch fluid to offset the leak that was obvious down by the mechanism below. This seemed to work. I only had to add fluid to the clutch one more time on my journey, but that was probably not the biggest of my problems. As I drove through Los Alamos, I was informed that the campground and most of Carson National Forest had been closed due to burn. So I headed in the opposite direction. And since I saw rain coming soon, I figured it was a smart choice to pull off the road and pitch my tarp and then pitch my hammock underneath it to avoid getting soaked to the bone. I think I just about got the tarp up before it started raining. And that was a very interesting day and night of riding and camping in a place that turned out where I should not have been. I hope y'all can hear this thunder, because this is fucked up. I gotta get a tent up quick. Quickly! Oh, did you see the lightning strike over there? This is crazy. So it's Sunday morning at just outside Los Alamos, and literally just outside the Los Alamos compound. If you can see, right over there is, just across the street in fact, is Los Alamos, and it starts there and it goes probably 15 miles towards the city of Los Alamos. I think this is also a ski resort, but it's a huge facility, pretty sure it's government run facility for nuclear research and all kinds of crap. I don't know what all they do. Probably defense type stuff, national security. But the campus is much like a college campus. It's big, it's nice, it's very expensive, and a mixture of a military base. You know, a really nice military base. But anyway, patrols going back and forth all night down this road. But good for me, I've got my stealth camping tarp set up, so when anybody drives through, oh, here comes somebody now. Let's see if they actually, there hasn't been that many vehicles, and this one looks like a civilian vehicle. But it was late, like it usually is when I throw down, and I just found me a place in the woods, and you just about can't see it from the road. Doing exactly what I'd hoped it would do. The wind last night was crazy. It started raining about the time I got over here. It was raining all around me, big thunder clouds, lightning strikes, everything. It wasn't raining on top of me yet, but I figured I'd throw up the tarp real quick, get up under the tarp, and then I could set up the hammock. And that worked. It absolutely worked. It started raining on me before I got the hammock up, but didn't get wet at all. Well, a few sprinkles on the shoulder. But the amazing thing is, where we're camping is burnt woods. It's not as badly burnt as the hills up there, but a week ago, I think it was a military vehicle, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. That's mostly what I've seen up here, is the military / security services. Anyway, what I was saying is, just last week Just last week, all the mountains up here, the hills, everything burnt. 160,000 acres. So I'm glad, at least in this case, I didn't come through here while it was on fire. I'll be set up camping here when it's on fire. But as you can see, it's rather black. And the last few days, it's been flooding. It's been raining up here, and the floods have made flash floods. So basically the mountains have washed down onto the roads. Big black soup that's washing across the roads. Apparently they get it all cleaned off before I got here, or most of it. So you're riding down a sooty road, but at least it's not big piles of mud and crap on it. But anyway, it's beautiful out here despite the fact that everything's brownish black, which is a shame. It was a beautiful morning as I rolled out of my camp spot the next day, and I thought everything could not be better than this. I did notice a vehicle drive by really slowly as if he had noticed me, and as I rolled down the road, I noticed what looked like a forest ranger on the side of the road flagging me down, waving me to stop. So I obliged him. I didn't think I'd done anything wrong at that point, but as he quickly informed me that I was parked and camped in the Bandelier National Monument, unknown to me. The guys inside Los Alamos at the security gate had told me that Carson National Forest had just burned a week or so earlier, and that the campground where I'd intended to spend the night was closed, and they instructed me just to pull off the side of the road somewhere and find a place to camp. And that's exactly what I did. And as this gentleman was explaining to me my trespass and probably my prison term that was coming up, the ranger rolled up. He'd called on his radio, and I explained the same thing to him, that it was an honest mistake, that I was not aware that this was even a national monument, but the guys inside Los Alamos, the security gate guys, had told me that I should do exactly what I did, and that's the ranger that I was talking to off camera here. After hearing this, he said, "Yeah, it's probably no harm, no foul. Didn't do any damage, and no problem. Just keep rolling." So that's what I did. I got back on the bike and headed out of Bandelier, and it was only later that I would understand how precious Bandelier is actually with all the Native American ruins. And I had no idea. I just thought this was countryside like everything else. I actually thought it was Carson National Forest. That's where I was going to camp, so I thought all this was Carson. I guess next time I will try to do more research. But man, it was a fantastic morning rolling out before the heat set in, and I was even increasing in altitude here, so it seemed like it wasn't getting near as hot. This is my first venture up into the Rocky Mountains, so I was pretty excited. As you can see, I'm driving along here, and there's lots of gravel and mud in the roadway, but my first experience with a national monument could have been much, much worse, but it turned out that rangers out west are pretty cool and very forgiving for stupid southerners that are riding out west for the first time. So lucky for me, I just kept heading north, and my primary goal was entrance into the the Rocky Mountains, where I was going to enter in around Durango. And I was pretty excited to keep heading north. The weather was beautiful, the sky was perfect, the sun was perfect, and I felt like I was on a hero's journey. So make sure you check out the next episode when I journey into Durango and beyond into the San Juan Mountains.